There are moments in life when someone walks into a room, and without saying a single word, they quietly tilt the entire dynamic in their favor. Not because they're richer, not because they're louder, but because they understand a handful of subtle psychological principles that most people never even notice. These advantages are almost invisible. Tiny mental shifts, micro-behaviors, quiet internal postures. Yet they shape everything. How people respond to you, how opportunities appear, how conflicts resolve, how trust forms or collapses. Today, we're going to explore 7 small psychological things, almost too small to notice, that give you a disproportionate advantage in life. Not tricks, not manipulation, just the kind of deep human behavior most people overlook, while a small minority use it to navigate the world with striking clarity. And the first one begins in a place most people ignore, the silent moment before you speak, when your mind broadcasts more than your words ever will. Most people believe influence happens in conversations, negotiations, or impressive displays of confidence. But the truth is far quieter and far more uncomfortable. Your biggest advantage in life is not what you say. It's what other people assume about you before you speak. Humans make snap judgments in seconds. They scan for cues: your breathing, your pace, your emotional temperature, your microtension. Tiny signals you barely notice, but others register instantly. And here's the invisible trap most people fall into. They enter every situation already broadcasting neediness, a subtle hunger for validation, a micro fear of being judged, a quiet pressure to be accepted, approved, respected. This emotional leak is what gives others power over you without them even trying. The small psychological advantage begins when you reverse the frame, when your internal narrative shifts from, "Do they like me?" to, "Do they align with where I'm going?" It sounds subtle. It is subtle. But it changes how people read you, react to you, and respond to your presence. If this is already opening your mind, consider liking this video. It helps the channel reach more people who need this kind of clarity. In 1968, at a small elementary school in California, a quiet psychological experiment unfolded, one that revealed how tiny shifts in perception can rewrite someone's entire trajectory. Researchers told teachers that certain students, chosen at random, were intellectual bloomers, children with unusual potential. Nothing else changed. No extra classes, no special treatment, just a subtle belief planted in the minds of the adults around them. Months later, those same random children showed significant increases in performance, confidence, and participation, not because they were different, but because others unconsciously responded to them as if they were. A slight tilt in expectation changed how the teachers spoke to them, how they looked at them, how they paused before answering, how they encouraged instead of dismissing. Small things, invisible things, but enough to alter a child's behavior, and eventually their self-image. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This experiment is happening to you every day. People treat you based on the subtle signals you broadcast, and you begin becoming what you're treated as. This is why tiny psychological advantages matter so much. They shape the expectations people project onto you before you even act. And if you're fascinated by the hidden architecture of human behavior, subscribe to Inner Truth Lab so you don't miss the next insights. Here is the core psychological mechanism, the one most people overlook their entire lives. Humans don't respond to you. They respond to the story their brain creates about you. And that story is built from microscopic cues you don't even realize you're sending. A single controlled breath makes you look grounded. A half-second pause before speaking signals authority. A steady gaze, not intense, just present, communicates internal certainty. A slower nod shows you're evaluating, not seeking approval. None of these are grand gestures, but each one rewrites the narrative people form about you. This is the first small advantage. You shape perception not by force, but by the tempo of your presence. The second advantage is even subtler. People mirror the emotional state they believe you already own. If you appear centered, they soften. If you appear decisive, they organize around you. If you appear comfortable in uncertainty, they trust your direction. And here's the deeper truth. Your behavior teaches others how to treat you long before your words do. This is why the smallest psychological shifts carry disproportionate impact. They quietly set the frame, Once the frame is established, interactions follow it automatically. So how do you turn these subtle psychological principles into real daily advantage? Not through force, not through performance, but through small, repeatable behaviors that slowly shift the way people read you. 1. Control the first 3 seconds. Exhale once before speaking. It resets your presence. 2. Enter with observation, not expression. Don't rush to speak. Evaluate first. 3. Speak 10% slower. It signals clarity instead of haste. 4. Use structured answers. Short answer. Context, what matters. 5. State boundaries calmly. No apologies, no tension. 6. Show micro-consistency. Small promises kept create disproportionate trust. 7. End conversations on your terms. A gentle close subtly positions you as someone with direction. These are tiny shifts, but each one shapes the narrative people construct about you. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever noticed this pattern in yourself or someone else? Your perspective may help someone reading. Every psychological advantage comes with a silent responsibility, because the same principles that elevate your presence can also be twisted into subtle manipulation. And this is where many people lose themselves. When you understand how perception is shaped, how expectations are formed, how emotional states ripple through a room, you may feel tempted to use these insights as a shortcut. To impress instead of connect, to dominate instead of understand, to mask insecurity instead of resolve it. But here is the ethical line. These principles are meant to clarify your presence, not distort someone else's reality. Influence without integrity corrodes the advantage you built. People eventually sense misalignment in tone, energy, or emotional leakage. Use these principles to become clearer and more grounded, not to puppeteer others. When aligned with authenticity, these shifts stop being tactics and become part of your identity. In the end, life doesn't reward the loudest voice or the most impressive resume. It rewards the person who understands the quiet mechanics beneath every interaction. These 7 psychological shifts aren't about becoming someone else. They're about revealing the version of you buried under doubt, pressure, and overthinking. When you breathe slower, people feel it. When you pause, others listen. When you remove neediness, the room reorganizes around your presence. This isn't perfection, it's presence. A presence that earns attention without demanding it. A presence that moves with intention instead of urgency. And as these micro-shifts settle into your life, the world slowly becomes quieter, clearer, and more navigable. Because the real advantage was never about strategy. It was about how you carry your mind and how the world learns to respond.